All right, the Senate will come back to order. I hope everybody had a good meal. For what purposes? I keep doing this to you. Hold on one second. All right, you've got a supplemental rules calendar that is on your desk. And the motion, the matter to take up on the supplemental calendar is SR 131. For what purpose does the senator from the 53rd rise?
At the appropriate time, Mr. President, I'd like to move to put SR 131 on the table, but I think you have to read the caption first.
Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of Senate Resolution 131?
Senate Resolution 131, a resolution by Senators Mullis of the 53rd and others, a resolution proposing an amendment to the Constitution so as to authorize the General Assembly to provide by law for pari-mutuel betting on horse racing and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Regulated Industries and Utilities recommends that this resolution do pass by a committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Cowser of the 46th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Committee on Regulated Industries and Utilities offers the following substitute to Senate Resolution 131, a resolution proposing an amendment to the Constitution so as to authorize the General Assembly to provide by law for pari-mutuel or fixed odds betting on horse racing and for other purposes. Mr. President, Senator Walker of the 20th and others offer the following amendment number 1 to amend committee substitute to Senate Resolution 131 by replacing may with shall on line 11 and replacing may with shall on line 45. That completes the order, Mr. President.
All right, the senator from the 53rd has asked for unanimous consent that Senate Resolution 131 be placed on the table. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and Senate Resolution 131 has been placed on the table. Now the chair recognizes the very patient senator from the 40th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that by unanimous consent, Senate Bill 610 be raised from the table.
I see a theme here. It's very divine. Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption of Senate Bill 610?
Senate Bill 610, a bill by Senators Harrell of the 40th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 7 of Chapter 4 of Title 49 of the OCGA relating to medical assistance generally so as to require the Department of Community Health to conduct a comprehensive review of provider reimbursement rates for home and community-based services and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Health and Human Services recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Watson of the 1st District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
The senator from the 40th has asked for unanimous consent for Senate Bill 610 to be raised from the table. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and it has been raised from the table. The chair recognizes the senator from the 40th to present the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. We have 7,000 people here in Georgia waiting to receive home and community support waivers. Now, this actually is not the exact problem that Senate Bill 610 addresses, because we have yet another problem, and that's that the people who take care of these people with disabilities are only making about $10 or $11 an hour. So we have a workforce issue for the people, the providers, who help the people with disabilities with their daily living tasks. So what has to happen is our Department of Community Health is responsible for doing provider rate studies that they then turn into the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services. And we have not had a rate study done since 2015, which is, so our rate studies are 7 years old, which is making it difficult to get rate increases. Our rate study is 7 years old, so it's making it difficult to get provider rate increases approved by the feds. So all this bill does is requires, starting in 2024, it requires the department to conduct provider rate studies every 3 years so that we don't get behind in the data that we need to send to the federal government. So I ask for your favorable consideration of Senate Bill 610, and if there are no questions, I yield the well.
You don't appear to have any questions.
Thank you.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 610? The chair sees none. Is there objection agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill? All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 51, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Chair recognizes the senator from the 50th for motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to take from the table Senate Bill 591.
Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of Senate Bill 591?
Senate Bill 591, a bill by Senators Hatchett of the 50th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 14 of Chapter 1 of Title 10 of the OCGA relating to secondary metals recyclers, so as to provide that it shall be illegal for certain persons to purchase, possess, obtain, or sell, or attempt to purchase, possess, obtain, or sell, use detached catalytic converters and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Natural Resources and the Environment recommend that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Harper of the 7th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Natural Resources and the Environment offer the following substitute to Senate Bill 591, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 14 of Chapter 1 of Title 10 of the OCGA relating to secondary metals recyclers, so as to provide that it shall be illegal for certain persons to purchase, possess, obtain, or sell, or attempt to purchase, possess, obtain, or sell, use detached catalytic converters, and for other purposes.
Through that code section, Amendment 1 by Harrell.
Mr. President, Senator Harrell of the 40th and others offered the following Amendment Number 1 to amend the Senate Natural Resources and the Environment Committee substitute to Senate Bill 591 by striking lines 144 through 150 and inserting in lieu thereof the following: converter or any non-ferrous parts of the catalytic converter unless such person is a registered secondary metals recycler in accordance with Code Section 10-1-359.1 and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Senator from the 50th has asked for unanimous consent that Senate Bill 591 be taken off the table. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and it's taken off the table. The chair now recognizes the senator from the 50th to present Senate Bill 591. And to present the amendment number 1.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today I rise to bring Senate Bill 591, Senate Bill 591 is the result of collaboration and negotiation with metal theft stakeholders, which includes various businesses and agricultural organizations throughout the state, such as AT&T, Georgia EMCs, Farm Bureau, Realtors, GMA, home builders, railroads, and many more. What this does is it strengthens our metal theft statute, which we passed back in 2012. One of the provisions in this bill does allow for cash payments for metal if the cash payments are under $100. However, out of an abundance of caution to make sure this doesn't spark additional metal theft, we have carved out some of the most commonly stolen items from the list that can receive cash. Those are catalytic converters, air conditioning coils, copper utility wire, and copper communications wire. There's been a lot of work that's been put into this bill, and we think that we are going to address a big issue across the state and also help out recyclers who are having to write checks for $4 or $5. And Mr. President, if there are any questions, I'm happy to yield. If not, I'll yield the bell.
You don't appear to have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Both work. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? The chair sees none. All right, we'll take up the adoption of Amendment Number 1. Is there objection to adoption of Amendment Number 1? The chair hears none, and Amendment Number 1 is adopted. Now the questions on the adoption of the committee substitute as amended. Is there objection to adoption of the committee sub as amended? Chair hears none, and the committee substitute as amended is adopted. Is there objection to agree on the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 46, the nays are 3. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Chair recognizes the senator from the 41st for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I ask for unanimous consent to lift Senate Bill 468 from the table.
Did you say lift?
Did.
Perfect. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption?
Senate Bill 468, a bill by Senators Jackson of the 41st and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 1 of Article 5 of Chapter 9 of Title 45 of the OCGA relating to Georgia State Indemnification Fund, so as to provide that death by suicide of a public safety officer in certain instances be considered a death in the line of duty for purposes of indemnification and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Insurance and Labor recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Burke of the 11th District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 41st has asked that Senate Bill 468 be lifted from the table. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and it has been lifted off the table. The chair recognizes the senator from the 41st to present the measure. 460.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm presenting to you today Senate Bill 468, which enables families who have a loved one die by suicide who's been serving as a public safety officer to be able to receive funds, the death benefit from the indemnification fund. It's important to note that the leading cause of death for law enforcement officers, second only to COVID, is suicide. This is an endemic problem for our public safety officers, one that we have to work on both sides. We have to make sure we pass policy so that people don't die by suicide, but we also need to pass policies to make sure that their family members are cared for in the event of such a tragic death. I think I'll stop there and I'll yield for questions.
You have no questions.
All right.
Senator has yielded the well. The chair now recognizes the senator from the 56th to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a very difficult subject for most of us to talk about. I myself have lost several people throughout my life who died at their own hand by suicide, and it is tragic, and it is a growing epidemic, sadly, and it is most prevalent in those who have served us in some type of uniform, our military heroes and our first responders. I want to thank the senator from the 41st with her great passion and purpose behind helping these families. She pointed out that it is the #1 cause of death for those in law enforcement behind COVID. It's also the #1 cause of death for firefighters. It is 2 times what the general population is for those that serve as an EMT or a paramedic in our emergency medical services. This is a real problem, and it has attributed typically to PTSD. And for all of us that have served in one way, shape, or form, and there are many in this room, and if I named them all, I'd be remiss to forget one. But if you've served us as a first responder or in the military, most of us have seen things we simply cannot unsee. Even things that I saw almost 3 decades ago, whenever I close my eyes, I still can't make go away. The folks that did this service and then took their own life still made the ultimate sacrifice for us. No matter how you look at this situation, they served us, they were impacted by the most difficult jobs you can possibly have on this planet, and they are no longer with us. And the people that suffered, as the senator from the 41st put it so well, are the families. These are children. These are spouses who are left behind to pick up the pieces. No less a heroic death than those who have died in our community or abroad, serving us in a myriad of ways. I know this is difficult to process, but at the end of the day, these folks did right by us, and it's time we did right by them. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 29th to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to thank the senator from the 41st for this compassionate piece of legislation. When Joe and Gary and Vince decided to, as we call, exit stage left, they chose their own method to go out. It's easy for me to sit down and look at the circumstances surrounding each of their lives and each of their deaths and determine which ones were consumed by what monsters existed. But I know for a fact that 2 of them were consumed by the job. The job that we all started at either the age of 21 or 22, the job that we grew up in, the job that we became conditioned to, and the job that at 40 and 45 and 50 years old, we sat around the table making extremely important decisions, not realizing the darkness that lives inside of all of us after a while. How each of us choose to cope with it is extremely different. Some of us have dark senses of humor, drink a lot of dark coffee, and enjoy laughing. Some of my friends, the monsters that possessed them were different. I received the calls before I became a senator and since I become a senator, and I'll never judge my friends until I get on the other side and see where they are, if I'm lucky enough to get to where they are. My destination could very well be somewhere else. But this is important, it's compassionate, and the victims in this are not my friends who sat down next to a tree in a park, who parked his car at a fire station, or who cleaned his house, mowed his grass, put everything in order for his children, and laid in his bed. The victims are the grandchildren, the children, and the spouses they left behind. And we can never, ever pay them enough for the sacrifice that they made. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 468? The chair sees none. Is there objection to agree in the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 48, the nays are 3. This bill having received the requisite constitutional majority is therefore passed. Chair recognizes the senator from the 47th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I guess I'd like to move that we scrape Senate Bill 510 off of the table.
Scrape.
Scrape it.
Mr. Secretary, will you please read the caption?
Senate Bill 510, a bill by Senators Gannon of the 47th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 40-5-24 of the OCGA relating to instruction permits, graduating licensing and related restrictions, and temporary licenses relative to the operation of a motor vehicle, so as to remove a restriction upon the operation of motor vehicles by Class D license holders and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Public Safety recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Albers of the 56th District Chairman. Mr. President, Senators Ginn of the 47th and others offer the following amendment to amend Senate Bill 510 by replacing lines 19 through 31 with the following. B.I. During the 12-month period immediately following issuance of any Class D license, the holder of such license shall not drive a Class C motor vehicle upon the highways and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
I got to give it to the senator from the 47th. I've never heard scraped before. That was pretty creative. Senator from the 47th has asked for unanimous consent for Senate Bill 510 to be scraped off the table. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and it has been scraped off the table. As a reminder, this bill was tabled last Wednesday, and you will not find a copy of it in your book, but there has been a copy placed on your desk by the Secretary's office. Chair recognizes the senator from the 47th to present Senate Bill 510.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. Said one of the things that for me, we have some great folks that can do some really good legal work in our legislative council. For me, I want to tell you, I had a constituent that came to me with an issue. His granddaughter was up on the top of Lookout Mountain, said and had to come down the mountain by herself. She was 16 years of age, said had a Class D driver's license, but was not allowed to have a non-related person in the vehicle with her. And he said, isn't there something that y'all can do to fix that? So I looked at it, said they sat down with legislative counsel. They came up with what you see in front of the white sheet that says Senate Bill 510. I know we got a lot of lawyers in the room. I'm not one of them. I'm not smart enough to read that. I need to put it in plain English. So I asked for that we pull it off the table and put it on the table last week. You see now amendment number 1. And I want to thank our legislative counsel for making it read a lot easier. But basically all we're doing is we're saying that what you could do in the second 6 months of having your driver's license by having one unrelated individual in the vehicle, you can now do as soon as you get your license. And for me, I want to say that this is one of those things that's just a constituent issue that I think a lot of people would realize a 16-year-old, male or female, brand new driver, has got a lot of things on their mind. And for me, I want to try to make sure that they've got somebody there, if they had a flat tire or whatever, that could have their back. They got to go work, change the tire. You know, nobody wants to be out on the road by themselves, and especially a 16-year-old. So I'll ask for your favorable consideration. Thank you, Mr. President. I'll yield the well.
Senator has yielded the well. The chair recognizes the senator from the 56th to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to commend the senator from the 47th, distinguished chairman of the Transportation Committee, for his work on this bill. This is a good bill, and I want you to think about this for a moment. Young person gets their driver's license, and he or she can drive with no one else. But what are the one thing as parents we try to teach our teenagers? Don't be alone, especially a young woman. So in today's model, they're going to drive by themselves. They might be in a parking lot by themselves. They might be in a dangerous area of town by themselves. All we're doing now is we're giving the opportunity to take one person with them. And with this, rather than the second 6 months of having 3 people in the car, we kept it at 1. Because the concern is loading up the car when you're a teenager. But having someone with you, to have your back and to have a companion, will actually ensure safety. I think this is a good bill. I want to commend again the senator from the 47th, and I hope you'll join me in voting for it. Thank you.
For what purpose does the senator from the 29th rise? He waives. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 510? The chair now recognizes the senator from the 29th to speak to the bill.
I apologize for having to come down to the well. I was going to ask a question of the author, but once he yielded the well, I understand that I was not able to do that. And while we've all been 16-year-olds and 15-year-olds, and in some cases 12-year-olds learning how to drive automobiles, and we understand how intimidating it can be, my concern now is that we allow the individual who is trapped upon the mountain for some reason because they were able to drive up to the mountain, but then once up there, whoever got them up there abandoned them, so they were required to drive down the mountain by themselves. So in order to solve that problem, we're going to place an individual in the vehicle with this person. My concern at this point is that that person could be another 16-year-old or a 15-year-old and something like that. If the person I knew were 21 years of age, an adult or somebody like that who could offer guidance to the young adult or child coming down out of the mountain, then I think I would feel much more comfortable with that. But not seeing that, I would caution my friends and fellow senators to ensure that we're not putting a young driver who could be extremely intimidated driving a vehicle by herself or himself down a mountain at greater risks with the distraction that comes from another child in the vehicle. And with that, Mr. President, I yield the well.
Any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 510? The chair sees none. The question, we'll take up amendment number 1 first. Is there objection to adoption of amendment number 1? The chair hears none, and amendment number 1 is adopted. Is there objection to agree to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill as amended. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 38, the nays are 13. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed as amended. Chair recognizes the senator from the 5th.
Mr. President, I urge you for an unanimous consent to move SB 603 off the table.
Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of Senate Bill 603?
Senate Bill 603, a bill by Senators Rahman of the 5th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 11 of Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to public school property and facilities so as to provide for an outdoor learning spaces pilot program and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Education and Youth recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Payne of the 54th District Chairman. That completes your order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 5th has asked for unanimous consent for Senate Bill 603 to be taken off the table. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and it has been removed from the table. The chair recognizes the senator from the 5th to present the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dear friends and colleagues, I bring you bipartisan Senate Bill 603, which will create a pilot program at minimum of 2 different schools for outdoor learning spaces and to report their effectiveness. This bill encourages the support of Green Schoolyard pilot around the state as recommended by the Outdoor Learning Study Committee that we had last year. The purpose of this program is to add school-level data into existing state agency and provide and private Green Schoolyard survey tools and maps, providing decision makers with critical information needed for a statewide rollout of Green Schoolyard. Outdoor learning improves educational outcomes by improving children's academic performance, focus, behavior, and love of learning. In fact, economically disadvantaged students experience greater benefits from outdoor learning relative to other students, which could help many children in rural and urban areas across Georgia. Nowadays, kids spend 90% of their time indoors, and much of the time is in front of a screen. Screen time has gone up for most kids during COVID-19. These spaces can be enjoyed by kids, but also by their families and communities during out-of-school time. This will provide Georgian communities with outdoor classroom, native gardens, stormwater capture, traditional playground, equipment, nature play areas, vegetable garden, trails, trees, water feature, and so on. Regular access to high-quality green space inspires strong connection to the natural world, which is crucial to children's physical and mental health. Because of this, my dear colleagues, I think this is a great bipartisan bill that signifies a great opportunity for the students and children of Georgia to be involved in outdoor education outside of indoor class hours and in the world of need of connection with nature. I urge you to vote in favor of this bill. Mr. President, I'll yield for any questions.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 33rd.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the senator yield?
Yes, for the great senator from 33rd.
From the colony state, the crown jewel, Cobb County. Is this your first bill?
First bill presenting the well, yes, sir. Yes, Senator.
Oh, okay. I have a couple questions
Well, there's
here.
a few more questions that just showed up.
First of all, do you have a fiscal note to show what this will cost to the schools to implement this?
Fiscal note? Well, I thought the senator would be asking all these questions. Fiscal note already left last election year.
Also, what is your research site? Did you go to Dr. Spock to find out whether or not this is applicable to children?
Yes, I had a lot of organization related with the children's and the educators from schools and from university came and testified at the Outdoor Learning Study Committee.
Would Senator yield?
Yes.
I don't see it anywhere on my desk. Do you, Leader?
I'll be glad to provide the senator with the data that I have.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 56 with a series of questions.
Thank you, Mr. President. Does the senator yield?
Yes, for the senator from 56.
Senator, how long have you served in office at this time?
This is my 4th year, 2nd term.
This is your 4th year, 2nd term. And when you ran for office, Senator, was this on your campaign material that's the most important thing you wanted to accomplish?
Not really.
I appreciate your honesty. Senator, if you further yield.
Of course.
Obviously, you're amending Article 11 of Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the OCGA. Would you please give us a brief summary of that article and chapter for the Senate's edification?
I don't have that in front of me, but I'll be glad to provide you.
Would you further yield, Senator?
Yes, sir.
Did you
Yes,
not
Senator.
come prepared today to present this bill, Senator?
I prepared enough, but not for that particular questions.
All right, Senator, well done.
You're pretty good at this. The chair recognizes the well-heeled senator from the 53rd for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. I actually have a broken heart, but other than that, Senator Yield.
Definitely for the rules chair.
And let me commend you on your display and your presentation. It's outstanding. But let me ask you this. Can you tell me where in your bill the moral turpitude label is at? Could you show me that in your bill?
Well, not really.
Okay. Can you tell me why that you failed to put moral turpitude in such an important piece of legislation? Don't wait on the translation. Give it to me now.
Well, I'm sure that all my colleagues over here don't know the answer anyway. So I didn't need it.
Isn't it true? That was my first question when I was hazed in the well, and haze is illegal, excuse me, when I was certified in the well. And isn't it true my answer was, it's what your mama would told you. So just let you know.
Senator knows what she speaks.
Thank you.
In this late hour, I feel obligated to ask this question. Do you continue to yield?
No.
One more. The chair recognizes the senator from the 50th with a question.
Does the senator yield?
Definitely.
Is it not true that this is a bipartisan bill that'll be good for all children in the state of Georgia and help promote outdoor education and learning?
Absolutely. This is the great bipartisan bill we had today.
Thank you for bringing it.
Thank you.
The senator has yielded the well.
Thank you.
After that thorough vetting, I can't imagine there's any questions, but would any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 603? Chair sees none. Is there objection? Objection to agreeing the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 48, the nays are 2. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Before we move on, we want to recognize a special guest with us. Former Senator Mike Pollock is with us on the floor with 2 of his students. Thanks for joining us. Chair recognizes the senator from the 37th. Busy today, are you?
Mr. President, I move that Senate Resolution 623 be raised from the table.
Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption to Senate Resolution 623?
Senate Resolution 623, a resolution by Senator Tibbins of the 37th, a resolution proposing an amendment to the Constitution of Georgia so as to provide for staggered 4-year terms of office for members of the Senate, to provide for the implementation of staggered terms of office for members of the Senate, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Ethics recommends that this resolution do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Burns of the 23rd District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Ethics offers the following substitute to Senate Resolution 623, a resolution proposing an amendment to the Constitution of Georgia so as to provide for 4-year terms of office for members of the Senate and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Good. Senator from the 37th has asked for unanimous consent that Senate Resolution 623 be once again raised from the table. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and it has been raised. Chair recognizes the senator from the 37th.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a very simple bill. I have 2 questions to pose to you, and when you answer them, you will know how to vote on this bill. The first question is, do you believe that the term of office for a Georgia state senator should be 4 years? And if you do believe that, do you believe that the citizens of the state of Georgia would have the right to pass a constitutional amendment to enable that to happen? If both your votes are yes, vote accordingly. Mr. President, if there are no questions, I will yield the will.
You have no questions. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Resolution 623? The chair sees none. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the adoption of the resolution by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. As a reminder, this is a constitutional amendment and requires a 2/3 vote. So many things I want to say right now. On the adoption of the resolution by substitute, the yeas are 49, the nays are 3. This resolution, having received the requisite 2/3 constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Can't wait to meet the House rep that carries that one. Chair recognizes the senator from the For what purpose does the senator from the 37th rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it too late to amend the bill that was just passed that we could exempt the senators from the 28th, the 27th, and the 51st from the provisions of that bill?
I believe you can make a motion to reconsider and then a motion to table. I'm getting over my skis here. Chair recognizes the senator for the 44th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to remove Senate Bill 108 from the table.
Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption of Senate Bill 108?
Senate Bill 108, a bill by Senators Davenport of the 44th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 30 of the OCGA relating to handicapped persons so as to create the Commission for the Blind and the Visually Impaired, to transfer the direction and supervision of Georgia Industries for the Blind from the Georgia Vocational Rehabilitation Agency to the Commission and for the purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Government Oversight recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Harbin of the 16th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Government Oversight offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 108. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 30 of the OCGA relating to handicapped persons so as to create the Commission for the Blind and Visually Impaired, to transfer the direction and supervision of Georgia Industries for the Blind from the Georgia Vocational Rehabilitation Agency to the Commission and for the purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
For what purpose does the senator from the 27th rise?
Parliamentary Inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. President, isn't it true on the previous bill that the senator of the 28th and I may have actually helped this bill's chances in the House by voting no?
The gentleman probably knows of what he speaks. Still can't wait to meet the House rep that carries it. I've got a couple of recommendations. Senator from the 44th has asked for unanimous consent that Senate Bill 108 be taken off the table. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and Senate Bill 108 is removed from the table. The chair recognizes the senator from the 44th. Sorry about that. That was quite a process.
No problem. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Earlier, I had so many books and computers on my desk that my large book accidentally pressed the button and changed my vote. I want the senator from the 1st to know that I'm a breast cancer survivor, and I certainly support your bill and appreciate you bringing it to the Senate today. Colleagues, I bring you Senate Bill 108. This bill will create the Commission for the Blind and Visually Impaired. Today, the Georgia Industry for the Blind is housed under the Georgia Vocational Rehabilitation Agency, and this would just transfer the supervision. Remember that the money would follow the commission, authorize the commission to license blind persons to operate vending facilities, and transfer the oversight of the delivery of deaf and blind services that lead to maximum independence and employment for individuals with both a hearing and visual loss to the commission. Many persons want to work, they have skills, and they are employable. Those who don't have all the skills they need are willing to learn. And remember that 2 members from this blind community will be appointed by the governor, 2 by the lieutenant governor, and 2 by the Speaker of the House. Now, the purpose for the establishment of the Commission for the Blind and the Visually Impaired is to ensure that people who are blind, visually impaired, or deaf-blind have access from cradle to grave to quality services throughout the state of Georgia so that they may obtain independent living skills, maximize successful career opportunities, and increase independence and self-sufficiency to promote the upward mobility of the consumer as a viable member of the community. Now, we must show compassion and make sure persons who are blind and visually impaired know that we value them, and the Senate has done that. You know, the Rules Committee chairman, even last year, took time and stopped and greeted them. And then this year, the chairman of the committee and the committees and the committee members showed some compassion even when the baby cried. So we just want to make sure that they know that we value them. So I ask for your favorable consideration and your favorable vote on this bill. Thank you very much. And if there are no questions.
You have a question. Chair recognizes the senator from the 29th with a question.
Does the senator yield?
I do.
Senator, this very compassionate and well thought out piece of legislation that you have put together, is it not true that the reason you had to do this is because the current department where this responsibility is currently assigned, that department is failing to do its job?
Senator, this legislation was brought because persons in the community, in that community, felt that they could not get the services they need. As a Georgia State Senator, I am not, as I said in the committee, I am not here to judge the department head or in the department for failing or not living up to their responsibility. But we just want to make sure that they get the services they need. And when we create this commission, we feel that the services will be there for them.
Does the senator yield?
I do.
Senator, is it not true based on the testimony in the committee and not, and your compassionate response was done because of this testimony, but the testimony of those who suffered from blindness or visually impaired issues, that their concerns were that the only way they could get the services that they feel the state is somewhat obligated to provide to them was by you championing the creation of a new commission to address their problems?
That is correct, Senator.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
You have no more questions.
Thank you very much.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 108? Chair sees none. The question's on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? The chair hears none, and the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Question on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 41, the nays are 12. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Chair now recognizes the patient senator from the 43rd.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to elevate Senate Bill 297 from the table.
Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption of Senate Bill 279?
Senate Bill 279, a bill by Senators Anderson of the 43rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 3 of Title 50 of the OCGA relating to state flag, seal, and other symbols so as to provide for the placement of a monument to honor the original 33 and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Government Oversight recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Harbin of the 16th District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 43rd has asked that Senate Bill 279 be elevated from the table. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and it is so elevated. Chair recognizes the senator from the 43rd to present the measure.
I love adjectives. Thank you, Mr. President. Today I present to you Senate Bill 279. And just a little bit of history. Did you know that some of the first black elected state lawmakers in the nation were from the state of Georgia. And less than 2 months after being elected, they were expelled because of the color of their skin. This often moment in Georgia history is referred to as the original 33. The original 33, as they came to be called, were courageous enough to withstand the opposition and petition the courts to intervene. Of the 33, 24 were ministers who, after the court ruling, were reinstated in these legislative halls to serve the state of Georgia. Senate Bill 279, a bipartisan bill, will provide a placard or marker placed inside the Capitol, honoring and commemorating the original 33. Their contribution to this state and this nation is undeniable. I want to say that I appreciate the senator from the 10th, while he served as the chair of the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus, did place a monument and a marker outside on the grounds. However, Senate Bill 279 will bring them inside the Capitol. I ask for your favorable consideration, and if there are no questions, Mr. President, I'll yield the will.
You have questions.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes the distinguished senator from the 28th with a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, did I just hear you right? Did you say the senator from the 10th was one of the original 33?
Senator,
Go ahead and answer the question.
I knew he's been here long, but I didn't think he'd been here that long.
No, Senator, I stated that the senator from the 10th was a previous chair of the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus, and is the reason why we have the statue outside.
Thank you.
Thanks for clarifying that. The chair recognizes the senator from the 31st with a question.
Senator Yield.
Yes, sir.
Senator, I guess in all seriousness, I do want to commend you publicly for bringing this bill forward. I think this is an important piece of Georgia history that needs to be recognized. I want to thank you and your caucus for doing this work, and I hope the body will unanimously support this bill.
Thank you for your support, Senator.
You have no more questions.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for your favorable consideration, colleagues, and I yield the will.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 279? The chair sees none. Is there objection to agree in the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none and the main question is ordered. Question on the passage of the bill. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 51, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Chair recognizes the senator from the 53rd.
Mr. President, this is another 29 vote bill, but I move to raise Senate Bill 572 off the table.
Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption of Senate Bill 572?
Senate Bill 572, a bill by Senators Mullis of the 53rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 11 of Title 48 of the OCGA relating to taxes on tobacco and vaping products, so as to provide for the Attorney General to establish a vapor product directory, to require vapor product manufacturers to provide an attestation to the Attorney General and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Walker of the 20th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs offered the following substitute to Senate Bill 572, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 11 of Title 48 of the OCGA relating to taxes on tobacco and vaping products so as to provide for the Attorney General to establish a vapor product directory, to require vapor product manufacturers to provide an attestation and certain information to the Attorney General and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
The distinguished Rules Chairman has asked that Senate Bill 572 be raised from the table. Hold your position. Hold your position. Is there any objection? The chair hears none, and Senate Bill 572 has been raised from the table. Now the chair recognizes the distinguished Rules Chairman. You must have some connections in the Rules Committee. Oh,
Mr. President, I'd like to commend the senator from the 28th.
Senator from the 15th will help you with that.
For running down here. I just can't run tonight. Thank you, my good friend, the Dean of the Senate, picking up my papers. This is a simple bill. It simply requires the Attorney General to have a directory of the legal products and illegal products of vaping. Now, we heard from companies in the committee said they're going to lose business. Well, only those that are using illegal products will lose business. This is simply an easy bill for the Attorney General to put this list on his website. Mr. President, I yield the way unless there are wonderful questions for me.
Let me see here. There's no questions.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate your vote. Only need.
Any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 572? The chair sees none. Now the question's on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection or adoption of the committee substitute? The chair hears none, and the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Question on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 32, the nays are 19. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Chair recognizes the minority whip for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move or ask for unanimous consent to move SB 227 from the table.
Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption of Senate Bill 227?
Senate Bill 227, a bill by Senator Jones of the 22nd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 22 of the OCGA relating to general provisions regarding eminent domain so as to provide for an alternative process for a county, municipality, or consolidated government to condemn certain blighted properties and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Judiciary recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland of the 17th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Judiciary Committee offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 227, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 22 of the OCGA relating to general provisions regarding eminent domain so as to provide for an alternative process for a county, municipality, or consolidated government to condemn certain blighted properties and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 22nd has asked that Senate Bill 227 be taken off the table. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and it's removed from the table. The chair recognizes the senator from the 22nd to present the motion, the Senate Bill 227.
Thank you, Mr. President. SB 227 basically changes the definition of blight, which will give counties another tool in the tool chest as far as dealing with what we call these superstructures or dead malls that are basically becoming more prevalent across the state of Georgia and, of course, also the United States. And so it basically just changes that definition of blight, would apply only to commercial properties, and that's the key thing, only to commercial properties, and would have to be vacant for 10 consecutive years, or or vacant less than 30% occupied for 20 consecutive years. So it's actually a long period of time that this must be done. And the other aspect of it is that if there were any conveyances within 2 years of actually trying to determine this was blight, that actually starts the clock all the way back over to another 10 years or another 20 years. So I think it gives us a good framework to work from. Retail is completely changing as far as not only Georgia but the United States is concerned, and a lot of these superstructures are empty and they kind of take down the whole neighborhood that is there. With that, I'll yield for any questions.
You have no questions.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for your favorable consent. Thank you.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 227? The chair sees none. The questions on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? The chair hears none, and the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 35, the nays are 17. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Chair recognizes the senator from the 22nd again.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to move SB 537 from the table.
Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption?
Senate Bill 537, a bill by Senators Jones of the 22nd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title II of the OCGA relating to agriculture so as to enact the Food Insecurity Eradication Act, to provide a short title, to provide for definitions, to create the Georgia Food Security Advisory Council, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Walker of the 20th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs offered the following substitute to Senate Bill 537, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title II of the OCGA relating to agriculture so as to enact the Food Insecurity Eradication Act and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 22nd has asked for unanimous consent that Senate Bill 537 be taken off the table. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and it's removed from the table. Chair recognizes the senator from the 22nd to present the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill 537 comes from a bipartisan study committee that we had over the summer, where we were able to travel to Augusta, Valdosta, and also here in Atlanta. And it deals with what we call food deserts or food insecurity. And what this particular bill does is create a food policy commission to actually kind of deal with this particular issue. One of the things among many things that we discovered was this is a very layered issue, and it's going to take more than just one bill to kind of try to correct it. For instance, grocery stores are having trouble keeping or basically getting their WIC licenses. And so one of the things the grocery stores were telling us was there was too much red tape that was going on as far as actually being able to get a WIC license to actually serve customers. And so we actually will make sure that grocery store owners are on there, and also persons from the Department of Labor will be on there so they can basically coordinate that situation. Another issue, of course, is the idea of grocery stores in general. And the fact of the matter is that we have a complex instrument called the New Market Tax Credit, which actually can help with grocery stores. And what we call the Atlanta Emerging Markets was one of the persons that came to testify about that. And so they will actually be kind of advisors to this commission, so we can use that instrument to actually try to get more grocery stores through the use of tax credits. So there are a lot of different layers to this. Another issue, of course, is the issue of farmers markets, so we'll make sure that we have persons there. We had over 60 persons testify from all sorts of fields, whether it was Georgia Chamber of Commerce, whether it was Atlanta Emerging Markets dealing with new market tax credits, whether it was farmers markets, whether it was persons who were more activists in the field. This is basically going to put those persons together to try to come up with good legislation that we can start solving this food desert problem that we have in Georgia, which crosses racial lines and class lines and also party lines. And with that, I'll yield for any questions.
You don't appear to have any questions.
Okay, thank you. I ask for your favorable consideration.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 537? Chair sees none. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 51, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. For what purpose does the majority leader rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
When is the appropriate time to move for adjournment?
You want my personal opinion? No, we have many measures to take up. Many. We'll be here till the late hours of the night. We're still early. It's only 8:03. Chair recognizes the senator from the 35th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to remove Senate Resolution 613 from the table.
Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption?
Senate Resolution 613, a resolution by Senators James of the 35th and others, a resolution urging the Georgia Building Authority and the State of Georgia ADA Coordinator's Office to meet to develop a plan to make the Georgia State Capitol building more accessible for individuals with disabilities and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Rules recommends that this resolution do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Mullis of the 53rd District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 35th has asked for unanimous consent that Senate Resolution 613 be taken off the table. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and it's taken from the table. The chair recognizes the senator from the 35th to present the bill from her desk.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. This resolution urges the Georgia Building Authority in the state of Georgia to make the Capitol Hill, including the Capitol and the Legislative Office Building, handicap accessible and ADA compliant. And both the state and the federal laws are already in place, and they mandate accessibility in a guideline. So this asks for us to adhere to the ADA and the IDEA compliancy book and guidelines. I've had a bad experience that made me immobile, and unfortunately, you hear beep, beep, beep every time I go somewhere because I can't walk on these marble floors and concrete floors, and I ride the scooter when I'm inside until my mobility problems improve. Then I realized that so many people could not even go up the ramps because those wheelchairs nor the scooter goes up the ramp. The ramps are too steep and they are not ADA compliant. I cannot go in some doors, including the office that I'm assigned, because we cannot get anything through there as well. So I have to end up struggling to get in there. So I look at other people who have even more problems than me with disabilities, and so I want to make sure that we all are accessible. Senator from the 2nd has suggested that we have a may have a suite for people who have mobility problems. Some people just break their leg or have some kind of problem that's very short term. But if we could have one for the Senate and one for the House, and we have them already, it's just moving those people into those places, that we would be able to use the vehicles that we have to use. And so I want to wrap it up by just saying that this bill just encourages and urges us to use the state and the federal laws that mandate the accessibility guidelines and make it compliant to those laws. So we take questions or yield the will.
You don't appear to have any questions.
Thank you. I yield the will.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 2nd to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate, colleagues. Senate Resolution 613 is just the right thing to do at this time. We have several members of this esteemed body who have just physical issues. And we should not have a ramp that's not handicap accessible for many of our members. We shouldn't have all of our doors that require someone get out of their buggy or get out of their handicap accessible vehicle to stand up and open up a door. We should allow ourselves under federal regulation, the same federal regulations, to allow handicap accessible doors and ramps in this building. If there are no further questions, it's not just about the senator from the 35th, it's about so many legislators that we need to have handicap accessible buildings and doors throughout this entire building. Are there any questions?
You have questions. Chair recognizes the senator from the 35th from the 36th with a question.
To Senator Yield, just quickly, it's also true that when we are asking constituents to come to our office to bring issues to us, or a lobbyist to access us in our office, if we're not in a office that has an open door for people with mobility issues, then we're disadvantaging the public and people who come to the great halls of this Capitol. Isn't that true?
The lady of the 36 knows of which she speaks.
So
yes.
let us move into compliance with federal law. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 35th with a question.
Thank you. Isn't it true that even some of the lobbyists, like Karen Pope, talked about her uncle James Talanow, that graduated in 1978 and had the problems with, he was in a wheelchair, and he said that the point of view is that the person is not disabled, but the facility that causes everything is disabled. Isn't that true?
The lady of the 35th knows of what she speaks. We as a body should make this building more compatible for all citizens of this great state. And not only those that are elected, but those that want access into this building that want to see us. If you're handicapped, we should make a facility more compatible for you to come into these doors and to see government in action and to meet your legislators. If there are no other further questions, Mr. President, I yield the will.
You have no more questions. Any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Resolution 613? Chair sees none. Is there objection to agree in the report of the committee which is favorable to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none, and the report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the adoption of the resolution. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the adoption of the resolution, the yeas are 49, the nays are 0. The resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Chair recognizes the senator from the 39th.
Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent to move SB 545 off of the table.
Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption to Senate Bill 545?
Senate Bill 545, a bill by Senators Halpern of the 39th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 2 of Article 6 of Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to competencies in core curriculum so as to require schools to provide training in first aid, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Education and Youth recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Payne of the 54th District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
For what purpose does the senator from the 33rd rise? Y'all? He waves. Senator from the 39th, is that? Senator from the 39th has asked for unanimous consent that Senate Bill 545 be taken off the table. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and it is taken from the table. The chair recognizes the senator from the 39th to present her second-ish bill.
Second bill.
Ish.
Second. We don't do anything to anybody when they do their second bill. Just a reminder. Okay.
Can you tell me what code section that is?
Exactly. Okay.
We got a couple lawyers in the room.
So I rise today to ask you to vote favorably on SB 545, which is a bill that can help save lives, teach responsibility in our children, and alleviate some of the burden on our overwhelmed healthcare system. So imagine if we could pass a bill with the potential to save thousands of lives and empower our students. And that's exactly what this bipartisan bill would do. It expands our state's existing CPR and defibrillation training to include basic first aid training and recommends a minimum of 1 hour of instruction to these life-saving techniques to 9th and 10th graders who have health requirement. And so that would get us many more students as opposed to just saying 9 through 12. So there was a time when the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts of America were filling the gap for that education. At their peak, the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts had millions of members each. And in just the year between 2019 and 2020, which doesn't even take into account the impact of COVID, membership has dropped 43% for the Boy Scouts, 30% for the Girl Scouts, and now those organizations have barely over 1 million members each. We also know at the same time that we have a shortage of EMTs and paramedics, which also predated COVID. So as a result, many of our young people are now not getting the basic training they need to be prepared for emergency situations. We already know the benefits of CPR, which we added about a decade ago to the requirement, and that training to our educational curriculum almost 10 years ago has helped to ensure that Georgia is able to improve on the figures that show that not even a third of people who have sudden cardiac arrest receive CPR from a bystander. And if that's the case, then only 10% survive. So first aid training prepares us to save even more lives. And for example, the American Red Cross already has a program ready specifically designed for high schoolers called FAST, First Aid for Severe Trauma Training. And it equips young people to save lives, keeps them safe in emergency situations, teaches them how to communicate in emergencies and stop severe bleeding. All of this training is great for students no matter where they live, but I want to point out for those in our rural communities the additional benefit where hospitals have closed and more people than ever are living too far away from immediate life-saving medical care. The longer that people have to spend waiting for an ambulance, the more likely it is that their injuries will worsen. So if COVID-19 pandemic has proven anything, it's that we need to be better prepared for everything. When there are shortages, our healthcare workers must make some of the hardest decisions imaginable, and we can make it a little easier for them with this bill. We have the tools to save lives. Now is the time to make sure those tools are in many hands as possible. I ask for your favorable consideration of SB 545, and I will take any questions if there are any.
Apparently, you must have done a lot better presenting your first bill because you have a number of questions on this bill.
I'll take them.
We'll start with the very serious senator from Roswell with a series of questions.
Thank you, Mr. President. Does the senator yield?
I do.
Senator, are you familiar with the Senate Rules 8-1.1?
I am roughly.
Oh, excellent. Would you just mind repeating it for the rest of the Senate for us?
I cannot do that by memory at the moment.
Senator, isn't it true that you're supposed to stay in your seat until recognized by the President's body before walking up to present a bill?
You know what? I
Is that not
thought
true?
because the hour is getting late that I would make the process a little bit more expeditious.
We don't make
and
exceptions.
Get there.
So, Senator, will you further yield?
I do.
So you believe that it's your right to just change the rules based on your
Yeah,
perspective?
I'm usually a rule follower.
All right, Senator. Let's continue on with some more questions here. In your bill in line 13, you say no less than 1 hour. Can you tell me how long the average class is for a 9th or 10th grader?
Well, here's the, yes, it would be to allow them to spend the hour of their class or two in order to be able to get the training. What I was trying to do there, quite honestly, is recognize that when you're teaching kids basic first aid training, and that includes things like choking, bleeding, bruising, sports injuries, that it may actually take more than one class period. But I also didn't want to make it so burdensome that it didn't offer flexibility for our schools to figure out the best way to insert it in.
Senator, isn't it true that the senator from the 7th is very passionate about this issue in CPR? Isn't that true?
I do not know that to be true.
Isn't it true he has his own personal mannequin at home to practice?
Oh, yeah. Perhaps so.
Let me look for some serious questions out here. We'll go to the senator from the 53rd, the rules chairman to your left.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield.
I do.
Are you aware that I was a fire chief once? I was much smaller and thinner back then. And I also was a first responder.
I did not know that.
Okay. Well, I also would, are you aware that I also would jump in the back of an ambulance and do chest compressions for a heart attack victim on the way to the hospital while the paramedics would push drugs and do the ambu bag or breathe for them? Are you aware?
I did not know, but.
Well, since your bill is regarding that, could you give us a demonstration on the podium of the correct chest compressions for CPR?
So the interesting thing about my bill is that the CPR is already in the code. The only thing that I am adding is basic first aid training.
And let me thank you for that. Are you aware that the senator asking you questions are the ones who've put that in the code by the vote of these people?
I did not, but see, we're simpatico. I love it.
Beg your pardon?
I still can't get past the fact that you said you used to jump on top of the person in the back of the ambulance and give chest compressions. That's what it sounded like. We'll stick with trying to look for serious questions here. We'll go with the senator from the 28th with a question.
I was waiting for the senator from the 28th.
I'm sure you were, Senator.
I was.
Does the senator yield?
I do.
Senator, one can only assume, since you're bringing us a first aid and CPR legislation, that you would know CPR and first aid type things. And is it not true this is a bipartisan bill?
It is. This bill passed unanimously out of the Education Committee and had bipartisan support in the introduction of it and the sponsoring of it.
So kind of along those same lines with the senator from the 53rd's questions, you know, in our demonstration of CPR, but I would like to know, in a bipartisan manner, would you perform mouth to mouth on the senator from the 53rd and show us what real CPR is?
So here's the great thing about having training. They don't do CPR mouth to mouth anymore. It's only chest compressions. And that's part of the reason why actually every single one of us in this body should get renewed training. And that's also why our young people and students need to learn what they're supposed to do and have agency to be able to respond quickly.
Senator, further yield.
That's not a no.
So is it not true that had they passed this law earlier in our careers that perhaps I would have known that?
Yeah, I mean, things change and evolve. This is exactly why we all need to keep up to date on training of these medical emergency
Well, thank you, Senator. I'll look forward to
scenarios.
your presentation on the matter.
The hour is late, so I feel it pressing to ask this question. Do you continue to yield?
No, I will yield the well and ask for your favorable
Consideration.
Thank you.
Does anybody else wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 545? There's still a few questions left for you. Chair sees none. Is there objection to agree in the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Question on the passage of the bill. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. For what reason does the senator from the 32nd rise?
Parliamentary Inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. President, isn't it true that we have an AED in the anteroom of the Senate?
I'm glad I don't know that, but I'm glad I do now. Can I use that instead of the senator from the 53rd giving me chest compressions? On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 52, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Can't wait for your third one. Chair recognizes the senator from the 44th.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to remove Senate Bill 491 from the table.
Ms. Secretary, can you please read the caption on Senate Bill 491?
Senate Bill 491, a bill by Senators Davenport of the 44th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 48 of the UCGA relating to revenue and taxation so as to create a qualified down payment savings program to be implemented by the Department of Revenue and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Banking and Financial Institutions recommend that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Burns of the 28th District Chairman. Brass. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Banking and Financial Institutions offered the following substitute to Senate Bill 491, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 48 of the OCGA relating to revenue and taxation so as to create a qualified down payment savings program to be implemented by the Department of Revenue and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 44th has asked that Senate Bill 491 be taken off the table. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and Senate Bill 491 is taken off the table. Chair recognizes the senator from the 44th to present the measure.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Colleagues, I bring Senate Bill 491 today. Senate Bill 491, this bill will create a qualified down payment savings program. Now call it the American Dream Down Payment Savings Act, which is similar to the Higher Education Plan, the 529 College Saving Plan that allows the state to establish and maintain a program that creates accounts that are used toward down payment of a home. Now, there are several agencies who have down payment assistance programs, but the difference of this one is pre-tax contributions. The program will allow individuals to make contributions to the account for the purpose of meeting down payment expenses of a designated beneficiary. Your family and friends and you all can make pre-tax contributions to the qualified savings account. You know, many times it is hard for people to save enough money to buy a home and for down payment. So this down payment savings plan will help many persons achieve the American dream of home ownership. We want to help people enjoy the American dream of home ownership. We want to help people, and that's what the Senate does. Thank you very much. And Mr. President, if there are no questions, I yield the well and ask for your favorable consideration and vote on SB 491.
You have no questions.
Thank you.
Senator has yielded the well. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 491? The chair sees none. The question now is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection or adoption of the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Question on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 49, the nays are 2. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Chair recognizes the senator from the 29th for a motion.
Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent that Senate Bill 504 be released from the table.
Released, that's a good one. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of Senate Bill 504?
Senate Bill 504, a bill by Senators Robertson of the 29th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 6 of Title 17 of the OCGA relating to general provisions regarding bonds and recognizes so as to redefine the term bail restricted offense and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Judiciary recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland of the 17th District Chairman. Mr. President, Senator Strickland of the 17th and others offer the following amendment number 1 to amend Senate Bill 504 by striking lines 12 through 43, inserting trafficking of persons for labor or sexual servitude, or after line 43 by striking line 44. Additionally, a minority report has been filed and is placed on your desks. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 29th has asked for unanimous consent that Senate Bill 504 be released from the table. Is there objection? Chair hears none, and it has been released. Chair recognizes the senator from the 29th to present Senate Bill 504.
Friends and colleagues, I rise today concerning Senate Bill 504. 2 years ago, we passed legislation that created certain bail-restricted offenses. And at that time, any of those bail-restricted offenses were listed. As we, and you can find that under 17-6-12, what those offenses were. And since that time, we've had individuals attempt to add other felonies to that list. In other words, requiring that if an individual was arrested in Georgia for one of those felonies, they would have to post a bond. Because in the past, what we were finding is that in certain courts, individuals were being assessed bonds, exorbitant bonds, and then being allowed to sign with only their signature. And the public was being misled. The public was being led to assume, or made to assume, that someone who had posted a $50,000 or $40,000 or $30,000 bond on their own signature had actually put money up there, which they had not. So, thank you, Mr. President. So during this session, it was mentioned in one of our hearings that it seemed like every year someone was coming up and attempting to add another felony. And so to address that issue, in speaking to some of those who serve on the bench here in the area, judges, their recommendation was to make all felonies, which there are only a few left off of our list, such as forgery, fraud, felony theft by taking over $500, RICO, bribery, extortion, felony obstruction of a law enforcement officer, and sexual misconduct of a child under 16 are not covered. So to move those over, we decided to change it to where all felonies would require a bond to be released, a bail-restricted offense each felony would become. And so we carried the bill to the Judiciary Committee. After 2 hearings, it passed, and we get here tonight for your consideration. The amendment that is currently being offered to what should be a very simple correction involves a violation under Title 16 in Georgia Code, which is Title 16-5-46, trafficking of persons for labor or sexual servitude. And by passing our legislation tonight, saying that all felonies in the state of Georgia are bail-restricted offenses, you solve the problem that the amendment is trying to solve. But what the amendment does is it leaves those felonies I mentioned earlier out, to include the felony obstruction of an officer and the sexual misconduct with someone under 16 years of age. So I would strongly encourage each of you to vote against the amendment. While reading through the legislation, getting ready, and while reading through the amendment, which I find to be unnecessary, I also was handed a copy of the minority report on SB 504. And while reading through the minority report, as I look down each item, I agree that freedom should never be denied simply because of a person's inability to pay bail. And what we must first understand is exactly what is freedom and when do we attempt or even act as if we're going to sacrifice or surrender our freedom. And one of those occasions is when we choose to go out and violate a law in the state of Georgia, a Title 16. And we're not talking about the freedom that is granted to us upon birth when our umbilical cord is cut. What we're talking about is the freedom that exists amongst all of us that says as we travel each and every day throughout society that we conduct ourselves as law-abiding.
Senator, could you hold for one moment? We're close to the finish here. If we could give our undivided attention to the senator in the well, and let's finish strong here as he presents a very serious measure. Proceed.
The freedom I'm discussing is the freedom that each of us possess as we move about each day unencumbered, following all the laws, the Title 40 laws, the Title 16 laws, and the many other laws, federal and state, that regulate what we are allowed and not allowed to do. And should we violate one of those laws, then we ourselves have impeded our freedom. Even though many times we like to lash out at the government or the government agent who shows up on the scene when we do violate the laws and impedes us from going on about our day, whether it's through standing on the side of the road receiving a citation, or whether it's having handcuffs placed on us and taken to jail and being fingerprinted and released without bond on a misdemeanor charge, or being required to post bond on a felony charge. And remember, these bonds can be anything from a single dollar to $1 million, based on what our infraction might be. Also, in the minority report, I see that almost 2/3 of the people in Georgia jails are awaiting trial and have no conviction. There's a very simple explanation as to why that is true. Georgia jails are not built to house individuals who have been convicted of crimes. They are detention centers holding individuals until their case is adjudicated. This is a common mistake. Jails are not prisons. Prisons are where individuals go once they have been adjudicated and convicted, unless they are sentenced to be housed locally. And if they are sentenced to be housed locally, they have no bond because the courts or a jury of their peers have adjudicated them guilty. So it goes without saying that the majority of individuals held in the county jails in your community have not been convicted of anything. They are waiting to go to trial. The third point, it costs Georgia taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars per year to hold innocent people in jail. This is a great narrative. If you look at the numbers of how many innocent people are incarcerated in jails or prisons throughout the United States, you may be shocked to know that that number is less than 2% total. That's including those in jail who have yet to have been adjudicated in the court. But the false narrative that is pushed out each and every day through the media through publication of books with limited research, continues to promote the fact that the vast majority of individuals incarcerated in the United States for some reason are innocent, as if our law enforcement officers are going out every day and indiscriminately rounding up citizens and placing charges on them without due process or without following the evidentiary rules that exist. Our tax dollars could be better spent on education, transportation, and health care without compromising public safety is another argument. Again, I'm amazed that when the opportunity presents itself and there's advantage in it, individuals want to all of a sudden start worrying about compromising public safety. Anytime we try to strengthen our public safety, we're attacked at every corner. But now, when we're talking about increasing public safety, in the minority report, they want to talk about by increasing public safety, we're actually compromising public safety. Again, when it's convenient, their argument evolves. The United States, being the next argument, the United States jails more people than any other nation in the world, even more than China or Russia. So let me get this clear. In human rights, in how we treat people, and who we incarcerate, we are comparing ourselves to the transparent governments of the People's Republic of China and of the state of Russia that is currently invading another country and bombing innocent men, women, and children. Hyperbole at its greatest. And it is actually an absolute embarrassment to even be included in this report at this time when we all know the country that we live in, that has the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution of the United States, and the best due process system in the world, is being compared as a third-place finisher to the People's Republic of China and of Russia. The next one, mass incarceration is the new Jim Crow. It destroys lives and devastates families and communities. Mass incarceration is disproportionately used against black people. Another false narrative. I'll say it again, another false narrative. Mass incarceration means a lot of people get arrested. To arrest somebody, you must have probable cause. To put somebody in jail for a felony, your probable cause must meet a certain standard. It can't be a hunch, it can't be a guess. There's evidence required. There's sworn statements made. There's signatures signed. And if you intentionally lie about any of that, to go back to something my friend from the 22nd said earlier, then you surrender your qualified immunity as a law enforcement officer. The mass incarceration that occurs in this country is the incarceration of the masses, whether they be black, white, brown, or any other color, who commit crimes. We don't have enough law enforcement officers in this country to create some conspiracy where the men and women who wear the badge go out and every day and gather up certain populations and incarcerate them based on a false narrative of hate. The next line, African Americans are only 1/3 of the population in the state of Georgia, yet are 2/3 of the people in Georgia's jails and prisons. If that number is absolutely true, then where is the failure? I can tell you where the failure's not. The failure's not in the criminal justice system, because I've mentioned the standards required to go out and arrest somebody and put somebody in jail. But I'll tell you where the failures are. The failures are in your church, they're in your community, they're in your schools, they're in your homes, and they're in your streets. They are not in public safety. If those numbers are factual, then you know where the repair needs to be done. It's not in the criminal justice system. It's in your churches, it's in your schools, it's on your streets, and it's in your homes. Most people sitting in Georgia's jails are presumed innocent because they have not been convicted. That is absolutely true, because everyone is presumed innocent until proven guilty, which absolutely contradicts the second bullet on the Minority Report. And finally, the next one, the purpose of bail is to ensure appearance in court, not to hold innocent people in jail because they cannot afford to pay. I've told you before, Superior Court judges, and that's who sets bonds on felonies. Not a recorder's court judge, not a traffic court judge, not a probate court judge, but a Superior Court judge. When he or she sets a bond on a felony, they set it based on the type of charge it is. And they are the ones who have asked for the bright line to know, do I set bonds for these? Do I not set bonds for those? They want bright lines. And bail is never done to punish. They can set it at $5, $50, $250, or $100 million based on the crime. They understand that. And freedom should never be based on how much money is in someone's pocket. That's an absolute fact. And in the criminal justice system, it is not. But here's what we have fallen into. We live in a world today where the other side of the aisle has empathy for those who go out and violate the law and no sympathy for the victims of those crimes. And I will tell you, the legislation I have championed over the past 3 years, much of it has been focused on criminal justice reform to help felons find jobs when they get out of prison, to offer hope to those incarcerated. But let me be perfectly clear. I'm a champion of the victims, those men and women who are assaulted each and every day in our community, those men and women whose homes are broken into and things are stolen, children in Atlanta, in Columbus, and in Catawba who live in fear for their life. This is a simple piece of legislation asking you to do one thing only. And those who oppose this have chosen to make it something it's not. I spoke to you earlier about courage. Now's the time to continue showing that courage. The amendment is there for one reason, to gut and destroy this legislation, this simple piece of legislation. And the Minority Report is a piece of propaganda written, and believe me, the reason I know, if you want to walk to my office with me, I will show you the books where the misinformation came from, because they're stacked in my office. The bill is a good bill. The amendment is a poison pill, and the Minority Report is meant to mislead. I ask that you support the underlying bill, and with that, Mr. President, I'll yield to any questions. If not, I will yield the well.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 10th with a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Does Senator yield?
Yes, sir, I do.
Senator, there's something that you said that kind of caught my attention. I think you were talking about people of color and the problems that they experience in the prison justice system. Is that correct?
I don't know which specific statement you're talking about, Senator. I don't speak from notes.
Well, I believe you said something that if the problems do exist and it's related to their home, their schools, and their street. Do you remember where they live saying that, Senator?
Oh, I do remember saying that as I was reading through the Minority Report, and it talked about African Americans are only 1/3 of the population in the state of Georgia, yet are 2/3 of the people in jail and prisons. And I said if they want to blame the criminal justice system for those numbers, they are misguided, because in my 31 years of experience of dealing with individuals who are in jails and prisons, I can tell you the reasons that they are there come from the failure of the church, the failure of their homes, the failure in the streets, many, many failures that have nothing to do with the criminal justice system.
Senator, further you?
I do.
Senator, how many black homes have you lived in? How many black churches have you attended? How many addresses of your homes have been in African American or black neighborhoods?
Senator, I currently live in a neighborhood that is predominantly African American. I grew up in a neighborhood that is predominantly African American. I have family members, and your question is disappointing because of the fact that I was always taught never ask a question that you don't know the answer to. So, Senator, I'll let you off the hook by saying you don't know the answer to the question you asked.
Senator, that's why I'm asking you the question, for you to give me the answer.
No,
that's typically how it's supposed to work. My question was, how many black churches have you attended? How many black homes have you lived in?
Okay,
You
I've
mind answering
attended many black churches.
Can you give me, can you expound on it and share with me some of
Sure,
your experiences
sure.
that you had in those black churches?
Absolutely. I was invited to many black churches to discuss crime, to discuss incarceration, to discuss multiple types of programs that were offered in the community, those to help individuals work their way out of poverty. Because if you remember, Senator, I was the one that had the legislation attacking predatory lending a couple of years ago. So I've spent many times in, let me clarify, not only black churches, but black organizations. I've sat down and had conversations with fraternity members from communities of color and not just African American. I've sat down with individuals from the Indian and Asian communities and had conversations with them. I've been involved in many organizations that were extremely diverse and had conversations with many people who did not look like me.
Excellent. Senator, further you?
I do.
Senator, how many criminals did you see in those environments?
I didn't see any criminals in those environments.
Senator, further you?
I do.
Senator, you just blamed the conditions of African Americans' incarceration on those communities, on those institutions, on those homes. Now that you've explained to me your experiences, how many criminals did you see in those
Let me
institutions?
explain to you. You know why I didn't see the criminals?
Don't explain
no,
it to me.
no.
I'm
I'm going to answer your
Senator,
question.
would you please take a seat for a moment?
I'm asking the question.
No,
please.
you asked a question and stopped. The reason...
The chair will pause for a moment. We'll get back to a civilized debate. The senator in the chamber will ask the question. The senator in the well has the right to answer or not answer the question. State your question again, please.
Senator, based on the information you just shared with me and the experiences you've had in those institutions, the black churches, the black homes, African American community, how many criminals did you see in those institutions that you've been so eloquently just explained to me that you're familiar with?
Criminals don't go to those institutions, which highlights the failure in those institutions. The criminals are on the street. They are not in the pews on Sunday because the church has failed to go out into the community and bring them into the pews. In the homes I've been in, the criminals are not there. What the criminals have done is they've abandoned their wives and children in those homes. That's why the criminals are not there.
Senator, further you?
I will.
So would the answer be 0?
No, my answer wouldn't be 0.
Senator, further you?
I will, for one more question from this senator.
Senator, in your comments, you related those institutions to the predicament of people of color as it relates to the criminal justice system. Isn't that correct?
No. What I said was...
I'm sorry, did I misquote you? Because you repeated early on what I thought you had said. I thought we had an understanding that you had contributed the high rate of African American incarceration to those institutions. Was I mistaken, Senator?
What you're mistaken in understanding is that every single individual, white, black, or brown, inside of a county jail or inside of a prison are there because of the failures in those institutions that you heard me describe. It is not just people of color that are incarcerated because of failures of churches, failures of homes, absentee fathers, and drugs, and all the other things that come along with that. Now, if you want to yourself say that that is the only group we're discussing, but I promise you, the jails that I've been in and the prisons that I've been in, I have yet to be in one that was 100% made up of one single gender or one single color.
Senator, further yield.
I do not.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 17th for a question.
Does Senator yield?
I do.
Senator, even though I have an amendment that guts your bill, I actually have a couple of friendly questions. In looking at the minority report, isn't it true that I think it was 3 years ago, this body passed a bill that actually required judges to consider somebody's financial condition when they look at setting a bail? In other words, someone's ability to pay is actually by law already has to be considered by a court when they're setting a bond for somebody. Isn't that true?
Senator, I believe that was done a long time ago when felons are incarcerated in the Muskogee County Jail. A financial disclosure form, as far as I know, has been filled out for probably over 20 years. Very detailed, almost as if someone were seeking a loan or something like that, and the total purpose is so that the Superior Court judge could have a full understanding of the financial situations of the individuals so that he or she could determine what their ability was to make bond. And so if the body passed something 2 or 3 years ago, I don't recall that at this time, but I do know that in my experience that's been done with a cooperation between the law enforcement agency and the courts for many, many years.
Do you further yield?
I do.
And I think you're correct, because isn't it true that I carried that bill the last year of Governor Deal's term that codified that and put in Georgia code to have in every jurisdiction around our state that somebody's inability to pay a bail will be considered by a court. That way, the kid that has the dad that can pay to get the kid out isn't treated differently from the kid that doesn't have someone there to help get them out of jail. Isn't that true?
That is true.
Do you continue to yield?
I do.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 43rd with a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned that there is failure in the church and in the home and in the community, but is it not true that there is failure in the justice system?
I think to some degree there's failure in the justice system when it comes to certain issues within the justice system. I think funding has been an issue. I think bringing educational opportunities and other rehabilitative type programs into the justice system, we've been very slow in that, and I think there are failures there. But I think as far as getting individuals into the justice system to begin with, the initial contact, most of those are starting with 911 calls for service. The officer, he or she arrives to the scene, makes determinations of if a crime has been committed based on Title 16 or Title 40 in Georgia law. And in those cases, the officers are making these educated guesses based on or these educated decisions based on the parameters put forth by this body. As far as once they get into the system, whether they are adjudicated guilty and transferred to a prison or a work camp, in those cases, I think programs for true rehabilitation, there have been failures there.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you. Does the senator continue to yield?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
One last question. Is it not true that people who have misdemeanors are not called misdemeanors? Nor should people with felonies be called felons. Is it not true that there are people with a record of felony or people with a record of misdemeanor?
No, ma'am, that's not true. Individuals incarcerated, when they're referred in certain situations, they can be and have been referred to as misdemeanors, and those charged with felons have been referred to as felons. And that is not a common law term that is used. That is a term that was created in Black's Law Dictionary many years before my mother ever thought about going out and finding a husband.
Thank you, Senator, but I guess my question is, they are people with records and should be referred to as such. Thank you.
You have no more questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. President, I yield the well.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 17th to speak to his amendment, amendment number 1.
Thank you, Mr. President. in full disclosure, yes, the amendment does kill the bill. It guts the bill. The intent of the amendment is to strike every change in the law that's actually in the bill itself. And that's why we have striking lines 12 through 43. It's not meant to strike the existing law. It's to reinstate the existing law and strike the changes that were made, and to add the offense of trafficking of persons for labor or sexual servitude to the list of bail-restricted offenses. Here's why I'm offering this amendment. The Center for the 29th's heart's in the right place. We do have examples of judges that aren't probably using the best discretion when looking at setting bail for individuals. But you have kind of two ways you can approach this. You could hold those judges accountable, and you could leave the current law as it is, where we list every single offense, every felony offense that we want to have a bond tied to it. List those out in the code. Or you do what the Center for the 29th did, which is say every felony in our code. The problem with that is probably sometimes today, many times today, we added more felonies. We're constantly adding more felonies. And what you're doing now is capturing every single thing that's ever a felony and saying a judge does not have discretion in those cases. A judge must now enter a bond in those cases versus leaving discretion with the judge. And so I think it's a great conversation to have, but I think, in my opinion, the better approach is to actually list out the offenses that we think are so severe. This is a charge, by the way, not a conviction, but a charge that's so severe, it shouldn't even be discretion for a judge. These are the offenses that you should have to set the bond in versus over, I've been told, over 500 felonies in our code. It's not just a few others. It's a lot of felonies in our code that we have. And saying now a judge has no discretion. Every single case in front of that judge, they must now have this bond that require somebody to post. With that, Mr. President, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
You don't appear to have any questions.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 56th to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. The hour is late, so I will be brief. I appreciate my friend, the Chairman of the Judiciary Committee, the senator from the 17th. However, of course it's severe. It's a felony. That's why we have felonies in the law and we have misdemeanors in the law. If it wasn't such a serious charge, it wouldn't be a felony to begin with. We passed criminal justice reform just a few days ago in this body. Many of you voted for it. In fact, a majority of you voted for it. And that was from feedback from the district attorney that happens to cover this building, prosecutors, judges, law enforcement, and everyone involved in the process. I'm going to tell you something you already know. We have a crime epidemic going on right now. It's happening in each one of your districts. It is the worst it's been in any time that any one of us can probably remember. Einstein's definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. This is holding people accountable up to and including a judge. And we have great judges, but some of them really still want to be a legislator or a social worker. So this is making sure that a felon, no one else, but that high threshold of a felon, has to have a bond. So we don't continue this cycle in the criminal justice system that we're seeing each and every day, because most of the offenders out there are repeat offenders. We talked about this the other day. Either we're going to address the crime problem or we're not. Please vote down the amendment. Vote for this very good piece of legislation. Go back to your districts and tell folks that you care enough to make sure that you're providing the protection they need for them and their family. Thank you. I yield the well.
Any other senator wish to speak for or against Senate Bill 504 or the amendment? The chair sees none. All right, we're going to take up the adoption of amendment number 1. Is there objection to adoption of amendment number 1? There is objection. All those in favor of amendment number 1, vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. This is a vote on amendment number 1. On the adoption of amendment number 1, the yeas are 24, the nays are 28, and the amendment has failed. We'll now take up the underlying measure. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 30, the nays are 22. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Chair recognizes the rules, Chairman. For a motion.
Mr. President, you know, I've had a bad day today, and my friends have deserted me, but I'm determined. I move that Senate Bill nothing be taken off the table.
Thank you for that theatrical performance. Chair now recognizes the majority whip.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pursuant to Senate Rule 7-1.10, paragraph B, I give notice that at the appropriate time, I intend to move that the Senate consider House action on House Bill 328.
Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of House Bill 328?
House Bill 328, a bill by Representatives Mottman of the 17th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 5 of Title 46 of the OCGA relating to telephone service general provisions so as to establish a one-time right-of-way permit fee and reduce annual right-of-way use fees as due compensation paid to municipal authorities by telephone companies and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
The majority whip has given notice that he intends to move on the Senate consideration of House action on House Bill 328. That special action will be on the next legislative day. Chair now recognizes the majority leader.
Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent that Senate rules be suspended to allow local bills that were filed today be first read and referred to committee.
The majority leader has asked for unanimous consent that the Senate rules be suspended for local Senate bills which were filed today to be first read and referred to committee. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and it is so. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the bills and we will assign them.
Senate Bill 620 by Senators Harrell of the 40th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to authorize the governing authority of the city of Doraville to levy an excise tax pursuant to...
Slow go.
Senate Bill 621, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act creating a new charter for the city of Doraville, approved October 13, 1971.
Slow go.
Senate Bill 624, a bill to be entitled an act to create the City of Cedartown Public Facilities Authority to provide for the appointment of members
Slow go.
Senate Bill 627, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act reincorporating and recreating the city of Woodstock, approved April 17, 1975 as amended, particularly
Slow
by...
go.
Senate Bill 622, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act to provide for a homestead exemption from the city of Doraville ad valorem taxes for municipal purposes.
Slow go.
That completes the order, Mr. President.
The chair continues to recognize the majority leader for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate stand adjourned until Wednesday, 16 March at 1 p.m.
Mr. Secretary, do you have any announcements?
There are no committee meetings today. However, there are a plethora of them tomorrow, so there is a schedule of those on your desks. That completes the order, Mr. President.
All of the committee meetings are on your desk. They're on a sheet. We're not able to display them. Any senators wish to make an announcement? Chair doesn't see any. Great job today. Very passionate debate. A lot of back and forth. We did a lot of good work today. Thank you so much for all of your participation. The Majority Leader has moved that the Senate stand adjourned until Wednesday, March 16th, 2022 at 1 p.m. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Thank God the ayes have it. And the Senate stands adjourned.